Hello, my name's Andrew Brooks and welcome to my YouTube channel. This video we're going to be looking at unusual British phrases used in Beatles songs. So thank you once again for joining me on my YouTube channel. For those of you who are subscribers, thank you very much. If you're not a subscriber, why not? It's totally free. All you need to do is just click this little button down here and press a bell or something, and you will get to hear of any new videos from myself in the future. As I said, this video we're going to be looking at unusual British phrases within Beatles songs. Now, for those of you who probably English isn't your first language, or if it is your first language, might not be used to some of the British terms that the Beatles use in their lyrics, they do seem a bit odd sometimes. So I can only imagine the confusion that might cause when you're reading them and you go, what? Well, I'm not going to explain my interpretations of the songs, because everyone's got their own interpretation of the songs and everyone's ideas are different. What I am going to do is just the little phrases and words sometimes that are used within the songs. I'll explain what they mean. So as an example, and for the first one of this video, we're going to be looking at Mean Mr. Mustard from the Abbey Road album, where he keeps a 10-bob note up his nose. Now, for non-English or non-British, I should say, viewers, a 10-bob note was a pre-decimal, so that's pre-1971 British currency, when we used to have pounds, shillings and pence, and now obviously we just have pounds and pence. So yeah, there was this really weird old currency. I mean, I was born in 1966, but I don't even remember spending the old currency. So yeah, pre-71 we used to have pounds, shillings and pence, and a 10-bob note is actually a 10-shilling note. So a bob was like just a slang word for a shilling. So 10 bob note is a 10-shilling note. A shilling is probably about 5p in today's currency, 5 pence in today's currency. So 10 shillings or 10 5 pence is 50p. So it's equivalent to probably about 50p over here in the UK. In the States, probably about 40, just over 40 cents. And what he was doing, keeping a 10-bob note up his nose, well, that's for you to make your own decision about. The second example in today's video comes from the Sgt. Pepper's album and A Day in the Life. And in it, Paul mentions that he's running to catch the bus, and then he goes upstairs for a smoke. Now, this might seem a bit odd to non-British people, but back in the 60s and even into the 70s and possibly into the 80s, we used to have these really old double-decker buses. You've probably seen them in all the old movies. They were called Route Masters. In London we had red ones, in Liverpool they had green ones. But most importantly, on these double-decker buses, you could go upstairs and the back seat, the back bit of the top deck, was actually sort of reserved for smoking. So you could actually go upstairs and have a smoke. Fortunately now, smoking in the UK on all public transport is banned. Oh, thank God. And as a little bonus, extra bit of tidbit, also in A Day in the Life, you can hear John mention about the House of Lords, when the guy in the car blew his mind out in the car, etc., and they thought he was from the House of Lords. Now, the House of Lords is part of the British Parliament. Now, there are two houses in British Parliament. There's the House of Commons and the House of Lords. House of Commons, they discuss and pass laws, which then get sent up to the House of Lords, who then decide whether or not to permit or decline these new laws that the House of Commons has set. Now, you can only sit in the House of Lords if you have received a peerage from the royal family or from the monarch at the time. So if he was from the House of Lords, he would probably be Lord so-and-so of so-and-so, Lord Andrew of Epping, for example. So yeah, House of Lords, it just references part of the British Parliament. Now, the next example we're going to look at is from the White Album, and it's John's song Happiness is a Warm Gun. Now, in it, it's got a really weird phrase of he created a soap impression of his wife, which he donated to the National Trust. Now, the National Trust is a UK charity, and basically it's a charity set up to look after historic buildings belonging to England and Britain. So you'll get castles and stately homes. So if you watch like Downton Abbey and things like that, the big home probably, I'm not saying this one is, but probably is being looked after by the National Trust. So yeah, the National Trust, they sort of look after castles, even forestry and areas of land within England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Now, probably a lot of you are aware that National Trust not only look after castles, but they look after smaller things as well. They look after Paul's old house in Fourth Lynn Road and John and Mimi's old house in Menlove Avenue. So they are now being looked after by the National Trust. Next up, we're going to look at 1966 George song Taxman from the Revolver album. Now, in it, he references two people, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Heath. So Mr. Wilson was Harold Wilson, who was the current Prime Minister of England at the time, and he was the leader of the Labour Party. And Edward Heath was his opposition, and he was the leader of the Conservative Party. So they were both leaders of the political parties that sort of vie for running Great Britain and England. And obviously it's their party, whoever is in power at the time, gets to set the taxes that people pay and things like that. And obviously George was a bit miffed at the amount of tax he had to pay, which I believe was something ridiculous, like it was like 90% of his earnings was taxed at that time. And that's hardly surprising why so many sort of well-earning people and celebrities left England to go and live abroad, because where the tax wasn't so high. But fortunately, at the time, the Beatles didn't. So yeah, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Heath, they're both, leaders of the parties within British politics back in the 1960s. And the last example we're going to look at today, don't worry, there will be more videos in the future, but the last one we're going to look at today is from the Abbey Road album, and it's Polythene Pam. Now, in Polythene Pam, John sings about how she's made the news of the world, and probably to non-British people, the news of the world is like, wow, she has made the news of the world. So everyone in the world knows about Polythene Pam. And to be fair, that could be what John was referring to. However, it was more than likely he was referring to the news of the world, which was some sort of sleazy, tittle-tattle, gossipy Sunday tabloid newspaper where they just spread all these malicious stories and salacious stories and photographs of what was going on. It was only on a Sunday, so it was published once a week on a Sunday, and it was called The News of the World. So I personally think that's probably what he was referring to. But it's easy to think that, he could have also been thinking, wow, she made the news all over the world. Well, I hope you've enjoyed. It's quite a short video, but I will be making more in a similar vein. So if you know of any lyrics in Beatles songs and you think, what the heck does that mean? What are these mad Brits talking about? Just drop me a comment down below in the comment section. I do read every single one, and I do respond to ones that need responding to. However, if you can think of one that you don't understand, I'll probably be able to include it in a later video. So yeah, let us know if you can think of any, and I'll probably see you next time.